When I was only 10 years old, I got addicted to RuneScape. But this wasn't your classic addiction to an MMO, it was something stranger. I'd grown up playing Sonic and Pokemon and knew that there was something more to these little pocket dimensions called video games. Then one day during my Taekwondo class, a friend of mine told me about the magical world of RuneScape. I was instantly sold, and that day I went home and made an account. I was blown away that they could fit such an expansive world into my mom's laptop, but that's not what hooked me. What hooked me was the fact that I had just gotten my very first job. I know that the title says the fascinating world of video game economies, and we will get more into that using a multiple of games to talk about it with, but I feel like I need to tell this story as it is integral to my growth and development as an early gamer. Anyway, where was I? Right, RuneScape. For the span of a single week, I was glued to the screen playing RuneScape, and I didn't want to do anything else. I wasn't questing or fighting monsters, no, I was working. I don't remember how the initial interaction went, but I was hired by an individual named Blubbernuggets to mine and smelt ore. All I did over the whole week was mine, walk, smelt, walk, and mine, over and over again. I don't remember how much I ended up with, but after the week was done, I met back up with Blubbernuggets and made the trade. I was rich. I felt just like a new hire after making his first paycheck. I instantly went to a shop and spent the whole thing on a beautiful set of armor, a sharp sword, and some accessories. Of course I had to try them out, so I made my way over to the PvP zone, only to get slaughtered in just one hit. And after that, my addiction was cured and I never played RuneScape again. I was completely wrapped up in the economy of the game. I worked so hard for a simple sum of cash and felt like $1,000,000 only to be kicked into the dirt and spat on. As sad as it was, I was still taught two very important lessons. First, don't be addicted to MMOs, and second, money is powerful. So let's talk about that power by taking a look at 3 games: Pokemon, Animal Crossing, and World of Warcraft. When it comes to single-player games, something like Economy is usually the farthest thing from your mind, unless of course it's poorly implemented. Games where you have so much money but nothing to use it on, or so little money with no easy way to get more, can be annoying. But when a single-player game has been balanced over the span of 20 plus years, it only makes sense for it to work so seamlessly that you forget it could even be a problem. The Pokemon series is an example of just that. And most of the early entries to the series, I remember it always being a bit of a struggle to cough up the cash to buy potions and Pokeballs. But in the most recent titles, you either always have what you need or have a great way to acquire more funds. In the past Pokemon games, the usual method of making money was to simply battle the final bosses over and over, slowly gaining a fixed amount of money each time. As tedious as this is, it still worked, and it provided an added bonus of your Pokemon also gaining experience. While this method is still viable in recent games, and even more so with new quality of life features, Pokemon Sword and Shield added another currency to the game that balances out the economy even more. Sword and Shield makes use of the standard Pokédollars as well as a new currency called Watts. Both can be traded for roughly the same items, but they can also help you get more of each other. Playing the game not only burns through your resources, but provides a way to get more. Along with sub-currencies you can collect, you have a recipe for a never-ending supply of resources, and all you have to do is keep playing the game. Let's break it down. You get normal Pokédollars by winning trainer battles or by selling items. Going even farther, there are items and moves that can help you get even more money from each battle. To top it all off, you can use a Gigantamax Meowth to max out the amount of extra money you can get from a battle. You get Watts by visiting raid dens. Every den that you interact with will give a fixed amount of Watts. Alternatively, you can give this guy some Armorite ore to have him give you a random amount of Watts. Watts can be used to buy a random assortment of items that you can mostly get by doing raid battles or buying them from normal shops. The items you buy with Watts can then be sold to shops for cheaper than they are normally purchased for, but this provides a way for you to convert your Watts into Pokédollars. Sword and Shield's economy is pretty well crafted, but it's done even better in Pokemon Legends Arceus. The whole game revolves around a simple gameplay loop that uses money to its full extent. Arceus plays differently than your typical mainline Pokemon game, but it still keeps the theme of having a great economy. I talk more about this loop in my video on Pokemon Legends Arceus, but in a nutshell, you get money by catching Pokemon, and then you can use the money to catch more Pokemon. Pokemon sets up a pretty simple yet well thought out economy system, but it really only takes into account the fact that it works with only one player in mind. There is an unofficial economy built around rare Pokemon and items that can be traded to other people, but this is really only prevalent when each Pokemon game is brand new. Now, let's look at an equally unassuming game and how adding an online multiplayer influences a simple economy. The whole premise of Animal Crossing is built around the in-game economy. You start the game in debt to Tom Nook, and you beat the game by paying off all your debts. To make money, you can farm, treasure hunt, craft items, sell things, and invest in the stock market. All in all, it's a pretty simple game with a simple economy, until you add in the batshit insane online community. Surface level Animal Crossing is so nice and wholesome, but when you follow the iceberg deeper, you find out about players taxing each other, border patrols, back alley deals, and human trafficking. You'd never think that this cute little guy would be capable of these underhanded business tactics, but he is. I only played for about a couple weeks at launch, so I'm not fully immersed into the crazy world of Animal Crossing as much as others, but I've still seen some things. Let's start with the stock market. There is only one item sold on the stock market: turnips. Players can only buy turnips on Sunday from Daisy May, and throughout the following week, the turnips can only be sold to Nook's Cranny. Each day of the week, Nook's Cranny will have a randomly set price that they will buy the turnips for, and sometimes it's less than what you paid for, and other times it's far more, but you'll never know how much it'll sell for the next day. Oh, and the turnips you bought on Sunday will go bad by next week, so you better get rid of them fast. In a game all about getting as much cash as possible, the stock market is a very appealing option. Even more so when you factor in that you can take all of your turnips over to your friend's place and sell them for whatever price they're getting. This is where things start to get out of hand. Online communities were formed with people everywhere advertising their great turnip prices. The catch is that people coming in would have to pay a fee to get into their island. Players would set up toll booths at the front gate of their islands telling the incoming players to drop their payment, and then they would be allowed access to their island where they could sell their turnips. Payment could be any number of things, from rare items, money, to even a cut of the turnips themselves. Some players aren't interested in trading turnips and instead visit other islands to barter for rare items or even villagers. On each player's island, random villagers will come and move in. Players can befriend them and help them make their stay more enjoyable, or they can convince them to move away. People quickly realized that they could use these mechanics to invite villagers to come to their island while visiting another. So not only do people post their daily turnip prices or rare items they have for trade on these forums, they also post which villagers they have available to buy, sell, and trade. You don't even want to know what one of my buddies did to get the homie rolled onto his island. Everything is tradable and any deal can be made for the right price. Animal Crossing is far from the happy chill game you thought it was, but that's only the beginning. When people have even more control over a market in an online world, you don't just have an in-game economy, you have a simulation of real-world economics. World of Warcraft is just that, a world. Each player does their own thing, making their own way in the world. Some become gem crafters, others stock traders, and a small lucky few are leaders of corporations called guilds. Let's start small and talk first about the single player experience. Let's say you're out on an adventure and you find a rare item. You take the rare item to the auction house so that you can make some extra gold. You see that there are 20 of the same item up for sale at 20,000 gold. You then decide to undercut the market and sell for 17,000 gold. And look at that! The item sold right away, but now there are 21 of them in the auction house going for 20,000 gold. It's great that you sold the item, and honestly you felt pretty good about the transaction, until you realize that some schmuck out there just bought them all up so they could monopolize it and sell it for a fixed price. This could eventually lead to inflation and can slowly drop the buying power of gold. At some point, players may just resort to trading items with each other instead of going through the auction house as a whole. Sorta like how it goes in the real world when the buying power of a dollar becomes worthless. In the real world, we have countries, and in World of Warcraft, you have realms. Each realm more or less functions as a server. When you start the game, you choose a server, and that's where you're stuck. If you want to move to another realm, you'll be paying a fee of 25 real American dollars. If you like your current realm though, why would you ever move? I mean, you got your guild there, and you probably know a lot of the regulars. Well, let me paint you a picture as to why. Aside from the value of gold collapsing, there are a ton of other reasons that one may leave a realm. A big reason would have to do with the player's chosen profession. Think about it this way, some people put hours, days, or even years into becoming a gem crafter, but then the value of the gems in their server can start to drop. Now they aren't making any money after spending so much time perfecting a single trade, so just like in real life, it'd be time to pack up shop and head for a new place to sell. How did this person get to become a gem crafter anyway? Well, leveling up your character isn't just about your in-game level, it's also important to upgrade your equipment too. One way to do so is by modding it with gems to boost its stats. This person saw three options. Find someone with the right proficiency in gem crafting, be in your realm and your faction to make it for them, go to the auction house and pay an exorbitant price on the off chance that someone is selling that specific gem, or just learn the gem crafting trade and make it themselves. They chose the latter. Learning a trade does require materials, and more often than not, players won't have the time to grind for them and instead join a guild. Some guilds will recruit new players looking to learn a trade and will provide them with the necessary materials needed to increase their skill. Guilds want items too, but they won't always have the proficiency to make them, so instead they invest in new players. They give these players the materials they need to improve their proficiency in a given trade, and then they reap the rewards. They get the new players to do all of the boring grinding, and then promote them in the guild for doing a good job. Sounds pretty familiar. MMOs are always evolving. All of the info I got were from friends who hadn't played World of Warcraft in some time, so a lot of these examples could have changed to become more complicated. Regardless, none of what I talked about even scratches the surface of the complexities of MMO economies, or all video game economies for that matter. Video game economies have always fascinated me ever since I was a wee lad, and even more so now. I love that the Pokemon games have a pretty functioning economy because they're some of my favorite games of all time. Does your favorite game have a good economy? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, let YouTube know by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. And if you really enjoyed the video, please check out our Patreon where you can support us even more. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep it rad.